In this Bubble tutorial mini-series where we are building a no-code invoicing web app, we've got as far as being able to create an invoice and then view an invoice on a single page and add items to the invoice, just like that. But we're now going to use a process called auto-binding. And auto-binding in Bubble is the equivalent of autosave. So if I go back into the app and go onto my invoice page, then I'm going to enable auto binding to parent elements thing. Few things to remember with auto binding, I'm going to go through every single one of them, is that auto binding will look to the immediate parent of that element in the elements tree to get the item from the database that it is making changes to. So my group here has a data source of current sales item, so it's going repeating group, individual sale, then the group is taking that individual cell and it's passing it down to my inputs. Here I'll say auto bind to parent, auto bind to description. Now I get a warning here. Auto binding requires us to make some specific changes to the privacy rules. I'm just going to update each of these first and then I'll take you through how we do that. So quantity, yeah, there we go. Unit price. And lastly, total. Okay, so let's get rid of that warning message, and that should not be an integer, that should be a currency. So we go into data, privacy, and we are talking about auto binding to an item. So I say allow auto binding, and then I allow auto binding on each of these fields. So if I go into my preview, remember my preview is a particular invoice. It doesn't say lorem ipsum here. This is an actual invoice in my database being shown here. And so I can type in test2. I can put in a quantity. I can put in a unit price. And then I could put in a, what would that be? That'd be 28. Then I could put in test3. 3, unit price of 3. Total 9. Let's update a few parts here, which is the unit price should be currency. And I'm saving the price, the currency values in my database as a number. And that means it is a number, it's just a number. It's not actually attached to is it dollars or anything like that. If I was to save $sign and then say 3, then I'd have to save that as text because it's no longer just a number because it contains the dollar symbol. If I did that, I'm going to get frustrated because I won't be able to do simple maths just like this. So I can add in the bottom and I can say, I can either refer to current pages, invoices, items to get a list of the items, or I can just refer directly to the repeating group, list of items. And then I can say items total price sum formatted as currency. Let's see what difference that makes. So these have auto saved. I've refreshed the page, they're there, and now we're successfully getting 28 plus 9, but not formatted as a currency. What's going on? Maybe I just need to clear that down. Let's try that. That's odd. So I'm going to use the debugger, going on the text. Text 37, formatted as. I don't think I picked the currency symbol. There we go. That's why. Okay. So there you go. Now, there's one extra bit here which you may have noticed and thought, well, that is suboptimal, which is that if I enter in test 4, and then I say, 47, unit price 19.99. I can't do that in my head. I'd like total worked out automatically. And the way we would go about doing that is to use database triggers. So let's have a look at database triggers. To get to database triggers, I need to go into settings, API, enable workflow and API backends. And then I can now access backend workflows. And so I can now add a database trigger. Now I'm getting this warning here. I'm going to demo it but it's not going to work because I'm running on a free plan. Database triggers, basically things that you do with backend workflows, you have to be on a paid bubble plan. But I can still set it up. So I can say when invoice line updated. So what's the type? Well, the type is going to be when an invoice item gets updated. And so I can say when items before quantity is not items now quantity. So that's going to say if the quantity changes, we're going to run this workflow. But it's not just the quantity, it's also going to be or when items before unit price is not items now unit price. So I'm running a check. I'm saying if someone changes the unit price or they change the quantity, we will run this workflow. And this workflow is going to be make changes to a thing. That'll be item now. Now bubble does give us, it's really helpful, but it's a little bit of a kind of bit unusual, isn't it? To say here is the item before the change, here is the item now. But we're going to make the change to the item now, and that will be total price equals item now quantity times item now unit price. Okay, now that's all we need to do. Trust me, that's going to work, but I can't demo it because I'm running this on a free plan. But last thing that I would then do is do something like disable the input, because otherwise people can override the total, overwrite it, and then it won't have won't have any respect for what the quantity or the unit price is. So I'm going to wrap this video up here, but the next video I'm going to demonstrate how we can send an invoice with individual items in an email using Postmark. So do stay tuned, like and subscribe for that video.